Stagg Jr. is one of the most coveted annual limited releases from Buffalo Trace. And I have finally been able to get my very first George T Stagg. And today we're going to determine whether or not this ultra limited, highly allocated bottle is worth the hype. And is it truly that much better than Stagg Jr.? Welcome back to another episode of Neat Bourbon. My name's Tanner, and today is a legendary day for the channel because I have finally been able to acquire my very first George T Stagg. This is the 2023 release. You can tell it has a massive hurting already put on this bottle because I was not able to get a full one. I was able to trade and pick up 2/3 of one, of which I've had a few sips out of because I had to. It's been, a dream to finally be able to acquire one of these, and I have, and I cannot wait to finally be doing this comparison. Now, just as a little bit of a surprise at the end of the video, I've been able to get a second George T Stagg, and even a third one. So now I've been able to acquire all these via trade. This is the 23, this is the 2018, and this is the 22. So this 2018 is the lowest proof George T Stagg, and this 22 comes in around like 138.7. So I'm going to be fresh cracking one of these two at the end of the video and putting it up against the 23 because I finally have a couple of these bad boys, and I'd be remiss if I didn't at least have two of them open at the same time. Let's go ahead and just open it up now so we can give the pour a little time to breathe in the glass. My very first GTS cork pop. Woo! That was a good one. My very first fresh crack. Not going to pour much. That was exciting. Not going to lie. I was been waiting a long time. I mean, it was pretty cool, trying this one for the first time. But, this is my first full one. So that was pretty cool. Shoot! So we've got the Stagg 22B over here. This one comes in at a nice 130 proof even. And the George T Stagg from 23 is 135 proof even. And I believe it's 15 years, 4 months. So the Stagg is just, very sweet. Lots of vanilla sugars, a lot of cherry as well there on the nose. And I mean, the noses between these two are very similar, but you can just tell that this George T Stagg is a little bit denser and it has a little bit more of like an oak presence there. I would have thought I would have been able to pick up a little bit more oak on the nose for being 15, or a little over 15 years old. It is just a denser nose, but like all the notes are pretty similar. You can just tell that the regular Stagg's coming off a little bit sweeter. Anyways, off to the palate. Cheers. I did really like 22B. I did think that batch was like pretty solid. So right on the palate, it is just all that like deep, rich, like dark stewed berries, but it is almost like confectionery sugar sweet there. There's a little bit of brown sugar there and a lot of vanilla. So I'm getting like a lot of stewed berries with vanilla. Like a Luxardo cherry there on the palate. Like the oak is coming across more in like a peppery oak, so I'm getting a little bit more like that barrel spice influence. But in terms of like age-rich oak, like I'm not really getting much of that. The Staggs, they're not known to be the most wildly complex pours, but they, kind of deliver on that like sweet, rich, vanilla, dark berry forward profile. So like I think that is, lives up to the Stagg name there. Anyways, let's go ahead over to the George T Stagg and see. Man, like that brown sugar is just so dense there on the nose here. Where like it was more confectionery sugar sweetness there. Man, it just smells deep. Anyways, off to the palate. Cheers. Man, so I'm getting like a vanilla cream puff there, kind of like closer to the back end, but like straight up front, it is just such like a condensed sweetness there of like that like dark, rich Luxardo cherry. And then coming over into the mid palate there is like that vanilla cream puff, and like that oak, it like really starts to show itself, and it's just such like a deep, rich oak. And then moving over into the finish, this was like the one thing that kind of caught me off guard, was like that oak presence is like so like dense, but it becomes like quite bitter there on the finish. Anyways, I'm going for one more. Man, I mean, I get it, and this pour is so good, but that bitterness there, like it's like that bitterness there on the end is like, I'm kind of surprised, honestly, for the George T Stagg, for like all of the hype, and everyone puts this as like the greatest bourbon like ever. Now, like, don't get me wrong, like, all the flavors that I'm getting up front, like those like deep, intense berries, all those brown sugars, like it's more of a vanilla cream puff, where like that like whipped vanilla on the Stagg, you know, was a confectionery sugar sweetness. So like the notes are all way more refined, deeper, richer, and like far more intense. And like that is incredible. But it's like that oak there on the finish, I don't know. Like I don't like, it's not that pleasant, honestly, which, you know, kind of, I hate, it sucks to even say, but like, I'm not like disappointed. I'm just like, you know, it is a little bit bitter there. And I'm just calling that out, because that's not something that, like, you know, I've ever heard, you know, that even be like touted with these Staggs. So anyways, one last sip. That berry is just like so rich. It's like you're biting into a berry, and like that like vanilla cream puff, like that whipped vanilla frosting note, man, that's sick. Like, I love it. It's great. Like, I'm super ecstatic to have this on my bar, but it's time to get into the 2018. Wow, okay. This one doesn't have like quite as much berry, but like that brown sugary oak is like far more intensified on this one. Now, keep in mind, I believe this one's 15 years and 4 months old as well. This comes in at 124.9 proof. This is from 2018, and it is the lowest proof George T Stagg released to date. Anyways, off to the palate. Cheers. Okay. On that 18 there, it is about 10 proof points lower than the 23, but like, and that red cherry isn't quite as like robust and like rich there on the front of the palate, like if that cherry was really shining through on the 23. But on the 18, like it more like on the mid palate, like it moves over into like more rich, like brown sugars, and you start to pick more of like, you know, like a tobacco-y leather characteristic there. And then like on that finish, it's a warmer, like seasoned aged, like rich oak there, like a lot more tobacco-y oak there. And like I thoroughly dig like the complexity there on that palate, and the fact that it doesn't have like that little bit of like bitterness there. I don't know if it's the proof, you know, the lack of proof, which is like keeping it from being a little bit bitter there in the finish, or maybe like the 18 just doesn't have a bitter finish, you know. So anyways, I think that 18 is fantastic. I mean, this 23 is an incredible pour too. So like, I'm definitely like incredibly happy to have both of these in front of me right now, you know. But if you're a Stagg fan, you know, and if your dream is to acquire one of these, you know, I mean, listen, I mean, I had to, you know, come up to around like $700 in trade value to acquire both of these. So like, they're not, you know, easy bottles to come by. So like, I'm incredibly happy as a bourbon enthusiast to finally have one of these on my bar, because I think it is, you know, one of those things that at some point when you go far enough down the rabbit hole, you feel like you should have one. So ecstatic to have one of these. Yeah, I'm going to have to put all these up in a blind, but I'd almost kind of nodded out to the 18 a little bit over the 23, even though it's losing a little bit of the proof. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video today. If you have, would you please consider giving me a like? Would you please consider subscribing? And as always, my name's Tanner, and pop the bottles and share the pours, and we'll see you in the next one.